नीडशुकराजे नमः। ॐ ओंकारारण्यकुञ्जराय नमः। ॐ नगराजसुताजानये नमः। ॐ नगराजनिजालयाय नमः। ॐ नवमाणिक्यमालाढ्याय नमः। ॐ नवचन्द्रशिखामणये नमः। ॐ नन्दितशेषमौनीन्द्राय नमः। नन्दीशादिमदेशिकाय नमः। ॐ मोहानलसुधासाराय नमः। ॐ मोहाम्बुजसुधाकराय नमः। ॐ मोहान्धकारतरणये नमः। ॐ मोहोत्पलनभोमनये नमः। ॐ भक्तज्ञानाब्धिशीतांशवे नमः। ॐ भक्त्या ज्ञानतृणालयाय नमः। ॐ भक्ताम्बोजसहस्रांशवे नमः। ॐ भक्तकेकिघनाघनाय नमः। ॐ भक्तकैरवराकेन्दवे नमः। ॐ भक्तकोकदिवाकराय नमः। ॐ गजाननादिसम्पूज्याय नमः। ॐ गजचर्मोज्ज्वलाकृतये नमः। ॐ गङ्गाधवलदिव्याङ्गाय नमः। ॐ गङ्गापङ्किलसज्जटाय नमः। ॐ गगनाम्बरसंवीताय नमः। ॐ गगनामुक्तमूर्धजाय नमः। ॐ वदनाब्जजिताब्जश्रिये नमः। ॐ वदनेन्दुस्फुरद्दिशाय नमः। ॐ वरदानैकनिपुणाय नमः। ॐ वनवीरोज्ज्वलत्कराय नमः। ॐ वनवाससमुल्लासाय नमः। ॐ वनवीरैकल्लोलुपाय नमः। ॐ तेजभुञ्जघनाकाराय नमः। ॐ तेजसामपि भासकाय नमः। ॐ विनेयानां तेजःप्रजाय नमः। ॐ तेजोमयनिजाश्रमाय नमः। ॐ दमितानङ्गसङ्ग्रामाय नमः। ॐ दरहासजिताङ्गनाय नमः। ॐ दयारससुधासिन्धवे नमः। ॐ दरिद्रधनुषेवदये नमः। ॐ क्षीरेन्दुस्फटिकाकाराय नमः। ॐ क्षीरोन्दुमुकुटोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ क्षीरोपहाररसिकाय नमः। ॐ क्षिप्रैश्वर्यफलप्रदाय नमः। ॐ नानाभरणमुग्धाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ नारीसम्मोहनाकृतये नमः। ॐ नागब्रह्मरसास्वादिने नमः। ॐ नागभूषणभूषिताय नमः। ॐ मूर्तिनिन्दितकन्दर्पाय नमः। ॐ मूर्तामूर्तजगद्वपुषे नमः। ॐ मूलाज्ञानतमोभानवे नमः। ॐ मूर्तिमत्कल्पपादपाय नमः। ॐ तरुणादित्यसङ्काशाय नमः। ॐ तन्त्रीवादनतत्पराय नमः। ॐ तरुमूलैकनिलयाय नमः। ॐ तप्तजाम्बूनदप्रभाय नमः। ॐ तत्त्वपुस्तोलसत्पाणये नमः। ॐ तपनोडुपलोचनाय नमः। ॐ यमसंयुतसत्कीर्तये नमः। ॐ यमसंयुमसंयुताय नमः। ॐ यतिरूपधराय मौनिने नमः। ॐ यतीन्द्रोपासविग्रहाय नमः। ॐ मन्दारहाररुचिराय नमः। ॐ मदनायुतसुन्दराय नमः। ॐ मन्दस्मितलसद्वक्त्राय नमः। ॐ मधुराधरपल्लवाय नमः। ॐ मञ्जीरमञ्जुपादाब्जाय नमः। ॐ मणिपट्टोलसत्कटये नमः। ॐ हस्ताङ्कुरितचिन्मुद्राय नमः। ॐ हठयोगपरोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ हंसयप्यक्षमालाढ्याय नमः। ॐ हंसेद्वाराध्यपादिकाय नमः। ॐ मेरुशृङ्गतटोल्लासाय नमः। ॐ मेघश्याममनोहराय नमः। ॐ मेधाङ्कुरालवालाग्र्याय नमः। ॐ मेधापक्वफलद्रुमाय नमः। ॐ धार्मिकान्तर्गुहावासाय नमः। ॐ धर्ममार्गप्रवर्तकाय नमः। ॐ धामत्रयनिजारामाय नमः। ॐ धर्मोत्तममनोरथाय नमः। ॐ प्रबोधोद्गारदीपश्रिये नमः। ॐ प्रकाशितजगत्र्याय नमः। ॐ प्रज्ञाचन्द्रशिलाचन्द्राय नमः। ॐ प्रज्ञामणिवराकराय नमः। ॐ ज्ञानान्तरभासात्मने नमः। ॐ ज्ञातृज्ञातिविदुरगाय नमः। ॐ ज्ञानज्ञाद्वैतदिव्यांगाय नमः। ॐ ज्ञातृज्ञालुकुतागताय नमः। ॐ प्रपन्नपारिजाताग्र्याय नमः। ॐ प्रणतार्थप्तिवाडवाय नमः। ॐ भूतानां प्रमाणभूताय नमः। ॐ प्रपञ्चहितकारकाय नमः। ॐ यत्तत्त्वमसि संवेद्याय नमः। ॐ यक्षगेयात्मवैभवाय नमः। ॐ यज्ञादिदेवतामूर्तये नमः। ॐ यजमानवपुर्धराय नमः। ॐ छत्राधिपतिविश्वेशाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रसामरसेविताय नमः। ॐ छन्द्रशास्त्रादिनिपुणाय नमः। ॐ छलजात्यादिदूर्गाय नमः। ॐ स्वाभाविकसुखैकात्मने नमः। ॐ स्वानुभूतिरसोददये नमः। ॐ स्वाराज्यसम्पदध्यक्षाय नमः। ॐ स्वात्माराममहामतये नमः। ॐ हाटकाभजटाजूटाय नमः। ॐ हासोदस्तारिमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ हालाहलोज्ज्वलगलाय नमः। ॐ हार्दग्रन्थिविमोचकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमेधादक्षिणामूर्तिस्वामिने नमः। ॐ श्रीदयानन्दसद्गुरुभ्ये नमः। ॐ श्रीमहेशानन्दसद्गुरवे नमः। So, shall we do meditation today?
You want everyone?
ॐ प्रातस्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयं यत्स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्मनिष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। morning I do Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is a particular form of dhyanam in English. It will be called Vedantic meditation. What is the nature of Vedantic meditation, Nididhyasanam? So the nature of Nididhyasanam is to follow the teaching. An independent quietening of the mind is good, but a necessary condition only for Nididhyasanam. Dhyanam or Samadhi, where you quieten your mind, is good, but it is just the beginning. So Nididhyasanam is to follow the teaching. As an example today, the Advaita Vedanta says that the changes that one experiences should be seen to be of the type of vivarta. There are different kind of changes. One type of change is parinama. Parinama means that the previous state was abandoned and a new state was taken up. Like a milk becoming yogurt. In Vedanta, in Advaita Vedanta, parinama is possible for various phenomena like milk turning into yogurt, that is okay. But at the highest levels, at the ultimate truth levels, the change is vivarta, not parinama. Parinama may be part of it, but eventually the change is vivarta. Vivarta, as you know, means a change without a change. One state evolves into another state without any changes to the original state. So the example of that is clay becoming a pot, gold becoming ornaments, and so on. There we see that yes, it is possible for clay or gold to take up a form, but without itself transforming into a form. In those examples, relatively speaking, the clay and gold remain formless. Forms may be taken up, but the formlessness remains. This is the Vedantic teaching. Nididhyasanam follows the teaching. This teaching, this way of looking at things that Shastra advises us is the teaching. I do Nididhyasanam by following this teaching. Shastra says, please see that your life's experiences are vivarta, not parinama. It appears to be parinama, and at a certain level, it is appropriate to be parinama. But upon inquiry, you should see that your experiences ultimately are vivarta, not parinama. The experience of parinama is well known. I was a youngster at one time, a baby, then a youngster, and now I'm a fully grown person. So I have given up my form as a youngster, and I have become an adult. It's a totally different form. This is parinama. But upon analysis, I find that my change is only an apparent change, in fact, vivarta. In Nididhyasanam, I see this fact. I see this fact in the following manner. All of my forms whichever forms I am in, youngster, adult, and so on, has two characteristics. The form is, and the form is known. I am as a youngster, and I am as a gold, as a youngster, as an older person. These are all forms like the gold becoming one ornament or the other. What is the gold that I am? This is where the teaching shows the way. Just like a gold can be in the form of a given ornament, or in the form of a different ornament. Similarly, I was a youngster and now I'm an adult. That I is the gold. Let us see how. All my forms have two basic characteristics. I am the form and I am aware of the form. The form is, and the form is known. Shastra says, The I is the nature of isness and knowingness. Satyam, Jnanam. And the Satyam and Jnanam are not two different things. It is the nature of the same Vastu. And it happens to be Anantam. That is its nature. There is no end to it. In Nididhyasanam, I try to see the difference between I, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, and a form, which consists of Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, but is a form which is temporary, limited. So like gold becoming a necklace without ever discarding its status as a gold, similarly, I the Satyam Jnanam Anantam may appear to be a youngster without ever giving up my own nature, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The status of the youngster is given up, but the status of Satyam Jnanam Anantam is never given up. Never. In all cases, in all times, in all situations, in all forms, Satyam Jnanam Anantam is as Brahman, as the Atma. This is the nature of Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is knowing certain facts that the Shastra reveals and in my own quiet way I try to see the truth of it, that it applies to me. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Yomavat Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastuvandakaro Vai Rukarastvannivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, let us chant. Let us chant verses number 5, 6 and 7 of the Vaidhatya Prakaranam. Number 5, Swapna Jagrita Sthane. Swapna Jagrita Sthane Hyekam Ahur Manishinaha Vedanam hi samatvena Prasiddhe naiva hetuna Adavante cha yat nasti Vartamane pitattatha Vitathai sadrishaha santaha Avitataha avitatha iva lakshitaha Saprayojanata tesham स्वप्ने विप्रतिपद्यते तस्माद् आद्यवन्तत्वेन आद्यन्तवत्त्वेन मिथ्यैव खलु ते स्मृताः. So follow the teaching, follow the logic of, because this particular prakarana is a prakarana where logic is predominant. As you know, this is yukti pradhanaha. So the first prakarana was shruti pradhanaha, and this is yukti pradhanaha, means where logic is important. So let's follow the logic. So in up to verse number 5, actually before 5, it talked about why should we take the swapnavastha, the dream state, to be false. So one thing we should keep in mind when we talk about non-real, false, and so on, one should keep in mind is the reality of the truth of non-real means it is real up to a point, but it is not as real as something else. So it's a relative thing. As we have talked about also before, we spent quite a bit of time on this, that asatyam cannot be asatyam unless there is a satyam. Only with respect to that can you say this is asatyam. So the dream is not as though it is not real. This is a very important distinction in Vedanta. So there is a thing called satyam, and then there is complete zero, not possible at all, but there is something in between which is called mithya. And so the example given is that, as you know, there is only one thing which is satyam. Only one thing, which is Brahman, which is satyam jnanam anantam. And it is not seen to be satyam, so that's another thing. But once it is seen to be satyam, whether you are seeing it as satyam or not, it is satyam. That I am conscious, this is the fact of the matter is that there was never a time that I am not complete. Never a time that I was not there. But we have just grasped to the fact that no, at one time I was not there. Even now I am not very happy. All those kinds are false impositions upon the satyam. The satyam is always there. Anyway, so that is satyam. Then there is thing called tucham or zero. That is, for example, like a square circle is a good example. It's not possible. It is not possible. So this is called tucham. So it is not real. So the dream is not like that. It has a certain reality, but it is not as real as satyam. So it has to be seen in relative terms. So anyway, the first few verses of this particular prakaranam was talking about the nature of the dream as not being very real. Relative to waking. Only when you wake up, then you realize that the dream is not real. But we were looking at the elements of why the dream is unreal. When you say unreal, that means partially real, partially not real. And we could see that even though it frightens me and so on, it could not have been there because I don't have the space for it. I don't have the time for it. All those kinds of reasonings that we saw in the first few verses of Vaithatya Prakarana. So then, in up to then number 4, the transition from talking about the dream to the similarity to the waking state was begun. First you establish the dream state, then you say, by the way, now that you understand the dream state, the Jagrata Avastha, the waking state, is also like that. Okay, so this was the logic. Okay, so now let's follow the dialogue between the person who is trying to explain this phenomena and a person that objects to it. This is how the teaching is done. This is also done in Gita also, in all of them. This is the dialogue. And the dialogue is a very interesting one because the dialogue is not a fight. So it can be a fight, but generally speaking, the dialogue in Vedanta is set up automatically to clear doubts. So this is what is called, as you know this by now, it's called, Siddhanta and Purva Paksha. So Siddhanta means the one who's trying to establish the fact. And the Purva Paksha says, not clear. I have some doubt about it. And the Purva Paksha can also be saying not a doubt, but saying this is not true at all. So this is what happens between Vedic thought and non-Vedic thoughts. Non-Vedic thoughts are like Buddhism or Jainism. They said, no, this is what you say is not acceptable to us. We have our own view of things. So that can be another Purva Paksha. But so in the teaching of the Vedanta, both types of Purva Paksha are used. One type is where you completely unaccept the Vedas. Another type of Purva Paksha is used where you say, I understand what you're saying, but I don't get it exactly. And here's my doubt. Okay? So having established this Siddhanta Purva Paksha, let us see what we are talking. Why is it relevant to us here? So, in the first few verses, the Siddhanti was saying that see how the dream is, and this is how the Jagrata Avastha is also. Okay, this is a Siddhanta. Now comes the first Purva Paksha, which we saw last week. And that was, this is not clear to me. And in fact, it is not true. And it could be sun and is a doubt. It depends on, who you are. You can say, I understand, I really have a lot of respect for you, but I'm not sure about this one point. Or you can say, I have no respect for you. Either one. The Purva Paksha says, you cannot say that the dream state and the waking state are equivalent. So Siddhanti says, why not? So the Purva Paksha says, listen, they are different situations. This we did last week. So follow the logic. So the Purva Paksha says that dream and waking are just different. So the Siddhanti says, how? How are they different? So he says, this was the reasoning given last week. The reasoning was, they are like the human experience and the celestial experience. So this is an interesting thing, because in here the Purva Paksha actually believes in the Vedas. So this is not Buddhism or Jainism or some other Christianity or anything. It is within the Vedic fold. How should we say that? Because the Purva Paksha says, listen, Vedas themselves say that the human experience is of the form which is, it is based on karma, and it is based on a transformation of one's life by first being born as a baby. And you need to have some parents are necessary for you to take birth. This is the human experience, you know that. So we say yes. Vedas also says that the celestial experience of going into heaven is totally different. How is it different? You immediately become a 16-year-old. You take a form as a young, beautiful person, having no problems whatsoever, good form, good health, and no desires, you just enjoy. Vedas say that. And so we say that's true. So the Purva Paksha says that you cannot equate dream from a waking state, because they are fundamentally different, just like the human experience is different from a celestial experience. And by the way, this is a very good example, because this is exactly what happens in the waking state versus the dream state. Beautiful. Just look at it. In the waking state, you have to take birth through the womb of your mother. It's a slow process. 9 months of baking in this womb. Then if you're lucky, everything, you have 5 fingers and everything, you come out, and then slowly you becoming an adult. That's not true in the dream. In the dream, you immediately become something. You don't have time to take a birth in the womb of your mother. It is exactly like celestial experience. And Vedas also says, by the way, this is true. What you say is true. What you say is true. So the doubter says, see, you cannot tell me about, do not just say that the dream experience is like the waking experience, because they are fundamentally different. You yourself said they are different, and our experience also shows it's different, so you cannot equate them. So now the Siddhanta has to answer it, right? So just look at the beautiful logic, how it is laid out, given by none other than Gaudapada. It's just absolutely marvelous. So Siddhanti says, well, this is not the final logic. I grant you they are different. I grant you they are different, but you are throwing the baby with the bathwater. In other words, these differences are not that major. You are not looking at the major similarity, you are looking at the differences. But you know what? I accept your doubts for the time being. So let's go on. Okay. So now comes verse number 6. So up to 5 was this logic, that they are different. Now comes verse number 6. So now the Siddhanti takes, so Siddhanti for S. S says, okay, you are so hung up on the fact that they are different, I'm not going to pursue that. Let us take another one. Let us not think about the similarity between the Swapnavastha and Jagratavastha. Let us stick to just the Jagratavastha. Now follow my logic. The logic is anything that starts and ends is not as real. I will modify my language. Instead of saying is not real, it is not as real as something that does not have a beginning and does not end. It always stays the same. So that's like we saw in the meditation also, that the forms are mithya, but the content of the form is satyam. And so the Siddhanti says, forget about similarity between the Swapnavastha and Jagratavastha. You just see the logic that in the Jagratavastha, anything that begins and ends is mithya, is not true, is not as true as one that does not begin and end. So this is what he says. Number 6 says, Adavante cha yannasti vartamanepi tattatha vitathaihi sadrisha santaha avitatha iva lakshitaha. So he says that one which does not exist in the beginning and in the end also does not exist even when it is there. So one which does not begin, one that begins was obviously not there before the beginning. And one that ends is obviously not there after it ends. But the same thing, even when it is there, is not really there. It is really as good as not there. That is the nature of things that are changing. Okay? So this is what the Siddhanti says. Purva Pakshi says, so here the examples, let's take up the 3 examples as where the discussion is taking place. The 3 examples are the one which is associated with our being fearful, which is the rope and the snake. So the non-understanding of the rope creates a fear. Another example is similar, but it creates greed. So one where you are recoiling and one where you are going close to it. And the one that you're going close to it is the mother of pearl appearing as silver. The truth is that it is simply a mother of pearl. This is where the pearl is born from. And so just the body of where it is. And then it appears as, my gosh, this is very valuable. This is like somebody has dropped some silver. So that's the counter example for the fear, which is greed, which is also not true. Both the fear is not true and the greed is also not true. And the third one is, all these 3 examples are important. Third example is that of in a desert where the hungry animals, or even anyone, even human beings sometimes can see the undulations of the temperature as it appearing as water on the horizon, when in fact it is just the temperature changes in the sand. That's all it is. But they're so hungry, they're so thirsty rather, not hungry, they're so thirsty that they think that there is water. And in fact, it's an absolute phenomenon that many of the animals in the deserts They run towards it only to find it is not there. And they keep running. Keep running because it always appears to be in them. So these are the three examples. Now comes the Purva Paksha. So the Siddhanta was saying that forget about the dream and so on. Anything that begins and ends is false, relatively false. And the Purva Paksha says, I don't quite get it. In fact, I'll give you a counter reasoning. The counter reasoning is that a litmus test for whether something is real or not depends upon whether it is useful to me or not. That should be the test. How? So, if I am thirsty and there is a real water, that is real because it quenches my thirst. But if the water was imaginary, it cannot quench my thirst. So then he sits down, he says, see, this is the real litmus test. You look at things, whether they are useful to you or not. If you are just sitting there and just imagining it, if I invest in this money, and then I will get so much so, and after that then I will reinvest it, then I will do this. And there are stories where you keep on doing this, your manoratha. This is not real. You have no money, you have nothing to invest, and you are making up all these stories and you're just dreaming and so on and so forth. Yes, that's all false. But if you have money and you have the chance to get into lift, you buy this lift stock yesterday, then you have some chance and so on and so forth. So the litmus test is whether or not this is how we should decide whether something is or not. So this is the Purva Paksha. So the Purva Paksha here says no. It is usefulness that determines reality. Okay. So this reasoning is given in verse number 7. So the word for usefulness is saprayojanata. Saprayojanata teshan. So he alters the dialogue. He says, forget about this beginning and ending and so on and so forth. I don't get, that doesn't really convince me. What really convinces me is something useful for me or not? This is the real thing. Let's talk about that. What do you say about that? This is what the Purva Paksha is saying. To which now Siddhanti takes over. And the verse number 7 is the answer to this, and this is a more subtle but more important and something that we have to really think about a lot. So this opens up a Pandora's box of analysis and thinking, of logic, which really leads to a lot of insight into what is real, what is not, what is useful, what is not useful, and so on. And so, by the way, here Swami Meshananji says that this is also the logic of Vishishta Advaita. Ramanujan's Vishishta Advaita follows this logic. And furthermore, Swami Meshananji points out that if you look at the Western religions, the Abrahamic religions, they follow this up to the very end. How? So, the attraction of Christianity and Islam for that matter is you please accept Christ as your Savior. Why should I accept? Because it is good for you, useful to you. And they are correct to a certain point. That really speaking, if you just have a belief in God, your mind changes. You become more, you become softer. You can tolerate problems. So the acceptance of, this is what the whole thing is all about, that you become a Christ. You become a Christian, you accept Christ. And the same thing is Muhammad. And so the Abrahamic religions believe that usefulness of your approach, of who somebody is really going to be good to you, is what the essence of life is. As opposed to that, in the Vedic system, we say it doesn't matter whether you accept a savior in your life. It is good for you anyway. Your own dharma, your own way of looking at things, of having everyone, so you don't have to make any artificial segmentation. So, for example, in Christianity, the animals do not have a soul. So you can kill them, you can eat them, no problems. They don't have a spirit. In the Vedic system, we say, no, that's not true. So if you are tolerant and if you're loving, you have to be tolerant and loving to everyone, including animals. You cannot make segmentation like that. So it has nothing to do with the usefulness of a savior. You just think that this is the right way to lead life. Anyway, so this was a distinction just to give you an idea that this is not just theoretical. People's approach in life also depends upon usefulness. Saprayojanata. Is something good for me, then I should do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. Vedanta says, not really. You should do it all the time, whether it is useful to you or not. Eventually it will be useful, but in the beginning it may not be useful. Anyway, this usefulness is now taken up in more detail. So let's look into this. So this is something which is just amazing. So Siddhanti says this logic doesn't work. Why not? Siddhanti says, listen, you had a very good meal. You had a wonderful evening dinner. And so this is what happens, if you are keeping a fast, supposing you're keeping a fast for the whole day, you're so hungry. This is what happens in our north in Punjab. We have this Karwa Chauth. So in Karwa Chauth, what happens is that the woman, the wife of a marriage, so it is not done by single women, it is done by wives. So the wives, for the welfare of their husbands, I don't know why they do it, but anyway, they do this. So they are supposed to eat before sunrise, and then only after moonrise. Okay, so the whole day they are fasting, and they can't even have a drop of water. By the way, no water, no food, no nothing. No tea, no coffee, and then you are starving and then everybody looks out for the moon. This always happens, and sometimes it's behind a cloud, and then they have to ask somebody else, have you seen this? This is very common to us. So it's about, and for some reason, on these Karwa Chauth days, the moon rises very late. I don't know how, this is just amazing. It is never before 9:30 or so before the moon rises. By that time you are very hungry. And I'm saying this for a reason. This is the logic for this. Then you have a feast. So all day you are saying hungry, hungry, hungry. And then there's arguments. Why am I doing this for you? You are not very good to me, and I'm still doing it for you. All these kinds of things happen. So the mind is full of such things. Hunger, hunger, hunger. But then you have a beautiful meal. You can eat as much as you can with desserts, ice cream, whatever it is. And right after that, you go to sleep. In the dream, your ideas are for the whole day. I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. There's nothing for me to eat. Why am I doing this for my husband? I should not be doing. He's not very good to me. All this is the dream. So Siddhanti says, listen, the usefulness is very limited, and eventually we will tell you that is a mirage. It is limited here because the food of your waking state was not useful to you in the dream state. So you cannot say that the usefulness is the criteria, because it doesn't apply. So what happens is that we may not realize it, but we have as much of an experience in the dream as we'd have in the waking state. There's a lot that goes on. This gives us a lot of sukha dukkha. We forget it because it's gone. But when you are in the dream, then you forget what is happening in the waking state. Why don't you look at it that way? You're taking a very biased view. You are in the waking state, therefore you feel that there is usefulness only for the waking state. But if you are in a dream state, whatever you had, the meal that you had, is totally useless. You are starving. So usefulness is not a criteria. And in fact, Siddhanti says, you've given me a good reason to discuss how our usefulness is. So, one of the things it says is, and this should be, this is something we discussed when we were doing the Upanishad also. And so this something has to be really looked in. The feeling that the dream is only when I'm lying down and sleeping is not totally true. In fact, it is not true at all. Then what do you mean by that? What do you mean by it is not true? So here we define what a dream is. This is a very important thing for us to really look into. This is one of the basis of the whole Vedantic and the basis of how I will really analyze my life and so on and so forth. Okay? So here's what happens. So there's a lot to be said, and I'll give it you different examples and then kind of summarize it and so on. But here is the answer. Even in the waking state, 80% of that is a dream. What you consider to be a waking state, Swami Maheshananji says in Hindi, 14 aane. 14 aane means there's 16 in the old days. 1 rupee had 16 annas. 16 annas. And so kind of like 16 of parts. 14 out of the 16 should be considered as dream. So I just translated that to 80% or something, but that doesn't matter exactly the percentage. How? What happens is that our experiences, no matter what the experience is, let's just take waking experience, consists of 2 parts. I have to
just touch that and
okay. Says so Siddhanti says no. Usefulness is not the final criteria. In fact, it is limited and, as we will see, rather complex. So then it explains that waking and dream are not clear cut. This is the thesis that we're going to discuss this now. 80% of waking can be considered as a dream. How? As follows. 2 parts of our experience. One is determined by our sense organs. So this here we're talking about the waking state, not the dream state, because the sense organs are not active in the dream state. They're only active in the waking state. But anyway, so we'll go back to that in a minute. The second one is your thoughts and conclusions based on samskaras. This is the discussion that is going to take place. So the example is, you are seeing your son. There is a boy in your house who's your son, and there are two things that are looking at this boy, you and a dog. Both the dog and you, through the sense organs, have the same conclusion. This is a person sitting here. The dog also sees it. Forget about a dog. Supposing there is another person, human being also there, that also is looking at the person. You are also looking at the person, and the dog is also looking at this 14-year-old boy sitting there playing with his iPhone. Your thinking is totally different from the dog's thinking and the other person's thinking. So the sense organ segment is totally different. Your mental conclusion is based on your previous vasanas, your samskaras. That is my son, he's my son, he's my son, is a thought that you keep on repeating. And so you view that person totally differently. So from this standpoint, the second component is like a dream. There's no reality to it. You are imposing a reality to it based on usefulness. And the usefulness is purely superimposed. Swami Vishwanji points out that you raised a son. Just take this example. This is like about 6-7 pages worth of discussion here. So he says, supposing you raised a son, and this is what happens. The reason that we all like to have sons in India, we keep on having babies and so on until we get a son. And then we have 2 or 3 sons, not just one. Is because I feel that when I get old, you cannot live with your daughter. In India, that's not the proper thing to do. You cannot just go to the daughter's in-laws' places and say, okay, take care of me. But you can force your own son, just you have to take care of me. So really the whole thing about the son is because social security. That's one of the reasons. There are a lot of other reasons also. So your expectation is, Swami Vishwanji says, your expectation is that your son will, so you are spending a lot of your money in bringing the son up, educating him, this, that, or the other, all with the idea of usefulness, that when I am 80, 90 years old, I need to have a place to live and so on. When you are 70, this fellow starts to neglect you. And you say, hey, I have to go to the doctor and so on and so forth. And then I called you yesterday. And yeah, exactly. So the fellow says, listen, I'm very busy with my kids. What do you expect me to do? You take care of your problem. I'll try to do the best I can. But don't you know I've got a job. And I have these kids who are also sick. And so on and so forth. Yes, I'll consider your, So really speaking, this thing about my son, how this is so it's unreal. This is something you impose on yourself. And the poor dog, he doesn't know anything about being son or anything like that. All he says is he going to give me this piece of chocolate or not? That's it. Has nothing. So really, and so Swami Meshananji says, if you really carry this, you find that really most of that is our own thinking. This is this is that, and so on and so forth. You're not dealing with reality at all. The dog is very real. That fellow is dealing with reality. Is he going to just, he's just sitting there and that's good. He doesn't have any things about who's son and daughter and parents. And this is all our own imagination. And Swami Meshananji pointed out that really looking at dharma, what is my duty and my dharma and so on and so forth, this is all it really forces us to be so limited. Like, for example, he says, this is all forced, this is all samskaras. So when a baby in a Brahmin family is brought up, he is told, do you know you are a Brahmin? You are the best amongst all the castes and so on. So the baby says, I don't know, what is a Brahmin? He says, we'll show it to you. And then as you grow up, then the boy is told, boys generally, girls not, you are a Brahmin. You are the best, you have to do all of this and so on and so forth. So that fellow starts to now feel that I'm somebody very special. I'm a Brahmin. Vedanta says just the opposite. Not only are you not a Brahmin, you are not even a body. Forget about a Brahmin. You give that up right away, but even a simple body you are not. So this whole idea of dharma and usefulness and you are this and you are my son and you're so on and so forth is not real. And so what you find is 80% of your life is not real. It's just imposed on yourself. And it is why this reasoning is important is because our hang-up, our mistakes, our Brahma is about taking things that are not real to be real. And so we are not really capable of inquiring into what is real. What am I? Until you give up your adherence, your slavery to things that are not real. Then this is one good way to do that. This is a start. You can see that you are just like dream is not real. So look at the beautiful reasoning. This is just amazing. Because the reason that the dream is not as real is that it is very limited. And furthermore, I just make something up and I make it into a reality and I just get involved. The same thing is happening in the dreams, in the waking state. Think about that. You're making things up and you're just assuming that this is real. That my son is real and everything is all, my being Brahmin is real. And you are just staying within that. So this is the very beautiful way of the dialogue. Look at this beautiful dialogue between Purva Pakshi and Siddhanti. So therefore now, we're running out of time, but let's at least look at the verse number 7. Saprayojanata tesham swapne vipratipadyate Tasmat adyavantatvena mithya eva khalu te smritaha. So he says, Gaudapada says that please do not hang on to usefulness as the criteria. You gave the example that yes, you're right, you cannot quench your thirst by imagining that in the desert there is no water. I agree with that. But in fact, this is also true even for your real water. This is the conclusion of Vedanta, that the real water that quenches your thirst is also very temporary. It does not quench your thirst to be totally free. It is like a dream. You think that if I am just not thirsty and I am not hungry and my son will take care of me, this is all there is to life. It's much more than that. And so start the very process of seeing the unreality of usefulness. This is what verse number 7 is saying. It says, Saprayojanata teshan swapne vipratipadyate. Vipratipadyate means it's contradicted. It's gone. It's no longer valid. Invalidity. Vipratipadyate means non-validity. So he says, so the utility is not a criteria because that also comes and goes. The fact whether somebody is good to you is your own imagination. It has nothing to do with reality. And therefore, that's not a criteria. In fact, this establishes the fact, please follow me, that the only criteria is something that begins and ends. This is the ultimate thing that you have to do. So don't distract me by saying that the usefulness is the criteria. No, not true. And in fact, I'm very happy that you brought up that as a criteria because that gives me a chance to discuss the non-reality of the waking state. That the usefulness and in fact you are right. The way we look at the reality of that everything this should be useful to me. That's not the way it should be done. So Maheshanji says that even your conclusion that I am a man is a dream. So he says, what? No. I'm a man. I'm different from a woman. Swamiji said, supposing I slapped you very hard and you have these red marks on, and then you say, why'd you do that? It's very painful to me. And there's a woman standing there, I slap her also. And she says, why'd you do that? It's very painful to me. Both of them are equally painful. What's the difference? He says, what are you talking about? She can give birth to a baby, I cannot. So we are all different. So he says, there are different shapes of the body. That doesn't make you any different. You are not a man. Just because somebody has a small nose and somebody has a big nose, are they not the same human being? So really speaking, you are just doing some differences on a completely different level altogether. You, the human being, happen to be a man, and you, a human being, happen to be a woman. Has nothing to do with you as a human being. These are just roles and bodies that you have taken up. Dream can be considered to be nothing but as just your own imagination that arrests your analysis of who you really are. In fact, he says, this is Adi Shankara's example also, that if you look at the commonality of all beings, not just human beings, so he says that this is a very famous example from Adi Shankara, that if you look at a cow, and a cow doesn't, she hasn't studied grammar, she does not know language, and so on and so forth. Fundamentally, what a cow does is that supposing you show some grass to a cow, the cow comes towards you. But supposing you hide the grass and you take a big stick with you, do like this in your, then the cow says, "Oh, is not a very friendly person." She recedes. He says the same thing is true for human beings. If somebody says, "Oh, by the way, this is what happens," whenever you find something is free, like supposing, normally you're diabetic and, you don't want to take this, but you find these cookies that are nicely laid out and they're free. Something happens to us in our mind when they're free. When we have to pay for it, that's a different thing. Why shouldn't I eat it? So somebody says, "But you're diabetic." That's okay. But it's free. So you go towards it. And then somebody says, "All brown-skinned Hindus need to leave this country right now. Otherwise we're coming after you. Will you go to that meeting?" You will recoil from it. This is like a danda. It's like a stick. And so, is this the same? Human beings also, they like to be loved. Cows also, they like to be loved. That is the fundamental aspect of it. And whether it's a cow or a human being doesn't make any difference. Anyway, so they're all in different ones. So if you want to do this, you want to write something down as a corollary. Let's look at this. So supposing you want to define, you want to make a definition of swapna, of what is a dream. Swapna. It is equal to samskara janyat, is called swapnavastha. Samskara janyatvam. So you have to see anything which is generated from your previous thoughts is this swapna. I say previous thoughts because supposing you take someone, so really speaking at this point, then the way to extricate yourself from having a total wrong impression about who you are, because what happens is that we are not capable of examining our true nature because we are so involved in our relationships with things and people that we don't see that they are mostly dreamlike. And so we keep on having this flow of thoughts. Samskara janyatvam means the flow of thoughts. So if you want to really start this whole process, this is where wisdom is. It's not an easy thing. Not like, you just do it and then that's it. It takes lifetimes. But if you want to start the process and begin to see what is dream and what is not, and what your thoughts are, just taking things for what they are, instead of superimposing your own ideas on top of that, is a good start. So those thoughts which are not samskara janya are real waking. Because the definition of waking is that they are generated by your sense organs. Your eyes are there, you're looking at people and so on and so forth. But if you'd have some opinions about the people, including the fact that he's your son, he's a boy sitting there, that's it. And yes, your wife gave, if you're a man, your wife gave birth to him. Yeah, that is all true. But then the expectations, your rights, expectations and rights, and criticisms, and all of that, you keep on getting reality to it. You keep on giving reality to it, which keeps you involved, is not right. It's like a dream. So this is a very beautiful definition. Swapna equals samskara janyatvam. It doesn't mean that you're lying down in the bed and it's all dark, and that is also dream. But we don't realize that 80% of our own waking state is also dream. And usefulness is not the criteria. So the Siddhanti says, thank you very much for challenging me. That gives me an opportunity to talk about this thing called usefulness. This is also a mirage. Anyways, this is a very beautiful flow of logic, how that goes. It's not just simple thing that you just, this is a dream, this is a waking and so on, but you have to really analyze it. And so the ability for these Mahatmas to give us just absolutely phenomenal. So with that, we'll close today's class. Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Deshoyam Shogarahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhaved Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
So Shankaracharya went on again with Pura Pakshasana, again explaining it to people, whatever Gaudapada did. You explained that just like
Yes, so this is Shankara's Bhashya on the Gaudapada's Karika.
yeah.
Shankara only comments when it is really something very, something important. And so in addition to the, so Shankara there not only commented on the Upanishad, but also on the Karika. Yeah.
It's not over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was under the impression that Dvaitam comes closer to Abrahamic religions. Today it's that Vishishtadvaita comes closer.
Vishishtadvaita is also just, so that is, yeah, so what Vishishtadvaita does is to say that that things are different from each. In other words, waking state is different, everything is different, but if you keep on meditating on it, then one day the differences will go away, and so on. So the difference is in Vishishtadvaita, I'm just looking at not the Dvaita, but the Vishishtadvaita. What Vishishtadvaita says is that a sense of duality as you see it today, accept it to be real for you. Accept it for a real for you, and keep working on it because the objectives are the same, with love and accepting other people and so on. Then one day you will realize that there is in fact some unity. This is what they say. Advaita Vedanta says no. There is no duality even now. And so therefore, and the reason is, that the reason why they're different is that this is what is called Paunav Punyena Shravanam Kuryat. That the way to remove a sense of duality is challenging it even when it is there. Do not accept it. Vishishtadvaita says accept it for the time being. You're not. So Advaita Vedanta says don't even accept it now because it's not true. It's never true. And the only way to do that is to keep challenging it and don't postpone it. You have to analyze it and think about it and read it and follow the thing even now. So that's the difference. So so the Dvaita, in that sense, is closer to Abrahamic religions because it says that your primary objective should be to go to heaven. This life is, you should just do puja and so on. You don't have any chance to, don't think about Advaita this life. Do it later on and whatever it is. And we don't even know how that will be. But it's really the experience of life which is more important, and secure it for the next life. And yes, there are differences because we find that the heavens are also temporary, whereas in the Abrahamic religions they are permanent. So there are some differences there. So the Dvaita is closer, you're right in that sense. Yeah.
Can you make the announcement for the people registration?
Oh yeah.
2 weeks only now.
So I hope that many of you are able to attend the 2-day seminar about Drikdrishya Viveka that Swamiji is giving. And so if you have a chance to register it, it's going to be all downstairs, and it will be a good chance to focus on for Because I think individual one or two classes have their own usefulness, but to have a seminar where you are immersed in it for 2 days is very useful. So if you haven't had a chance to register, please do so. Okay, very good. We'll see you next week.